Welcome back, everybody. Here with a new episode with Next in Line, where our mission and our whole reason for having this thing is about paying it forward. That's our North Star. Been looking forward to this episode for quite some time. This gentleman right here, I want to have him introduce himself. I don't want nobody's going to do it better than him, but I will tell you, you're going to find out through this episode this journey and what's he all about. And he's a tremendous individual, and I'm thankful for him to come out here to spend time with us. So, Brian, if you may, can you give us a little background who Brian is and how you got here?
Yeah, so I appreciate the kind words. I'm a technology executive, specifically the CIO, VP and CIO for Clark Atlanta University, a small research institution right here in the heart of Atlanta, downtown Atlanta.
Right.
Did computer science and math undergrad and MBA a little later, but I consider myself or try to be a servant leader, but definitely technology evangelist, and I'm always looking to bridge the digital divide and leverage technology for the good.
Love it. Love it. I appreciate that. So Clark Atlanta University. So that's in the heart of downtown Atlanta. And what is it? You said is they concentrate mostly in IT, or what type of
No, it's a research.
university?
It's a research
A research
institution.
university?
Yeah, so it's R2. So they spend a lot of money, a lot of investments in doing research. But it's a good school. It's right here in the historic part, and then the what we call the AU, the AUC, the Atlanta University Center, alongside Morehouse School of Medicine, Spelman, and Morris Brown. So it's a nice little rich history right here where we sit, and we're right in the heart where we've got those 8 World Cup matches coming in next year as well. So we're
That's
right in the
right.
mix.
Yeah, between Miami and Atlanta, that'd be a nice little bounce back between both of them. It's going to be good. I'm looking forward to
Absolutely.
that. So I'm assuming I got to ask, since you brought it up, World Cup. Who's what two teams are you going to be representing or cheering for? Let's say.
Well, I'm always cheering for Trinidad. I
That's
mean,
right.
that's home. But yeah, I don't know. We have much of a shot. So, it just depends. I always like looking at, I like seeing France.
Yep.
I like to see France do well, but, I don't really have a dog in the fight. I just want to
No.
see some good football.
Yeah.
Any of the small countries, the underdogs, I'll always go for. But just want to see some good football, and I'm sure we will.
I love the underdogs. Well, in my house, my wife is Colombian, so if I don't wear a Colombian jersey through, I'm not going to eat that week probably. So you
I
know who I'm going for.
understand.
And
I understand.
I'm Puerto Rican.
And
Puerto
you've got
Ricans
to
don't
eat.
play soccer. So, but it's going to be fun. World Cup. I don't watch soccer too much every single day, but I'll tell you, the World Cup is fun. That's
It
a lot of
is.
passion,
It
a
is.
lot of passion.
It is
Um,
indeed.
you told me a little bit about where you're currently today, but I want to see if I could bring you back a little bit, right? Because talking to you the first time, I think this is newsworthy or something I'd like to share because you kind of caught me off guard with that first gig. I always like asking our CIOs, what was your first IT job? Right out
So
of,
my
school, yeah, right out the gate.
Right out the gate, my first job was with NASA. Worked on several shuttle missions from USML-1, USML-2. We call it United States Microgravity Laboratory. Worked on the Chandra X-ray satellite, and several in the payload base, several different things. But I was working at NASA as a software engineer, software
Mhm.
developer. So when people say it's not rocket science, I was actually like, oh, but it is.
It is.
It is. So,
Wow.
yeah,
That's congratulations on that. But
thank you.
also, I got to mention because I think it's something that is what we're very proud of is that they took care of you too, right? Like you had to. I imagine you got. I look at it as a draft pick, right? Is kind of scholarship based. How did it all work out for you?
Yeah, so they paid. So I was a recipient of a couple scholarships. One was called the NASA Sharp Scholarship, and the other one was Teledyne Brown Minority Engineering Scholarship. And both of those paid for me to go to University of Alabama, Huntsville. I think it was any STEM major at the time. I started engineering, then switched to a double major in computer science and math. And they paid, and they set me up with an internship. And at an early age, early in my career, even before finishing school, got to work alongside some very bright minds and really kind of cut my teeth alongside some brilliant people.
Wow, double major, computer science and math. I
Yeah,
mean, that's what's up,
right.
right? I mean, I couldn't handle one. So like, much respect, my friend. No, that's great. That's great to hear. And you grew up mostly, where would you mostly grow up? You mostly Atlanta, or
Trinidad and
you grew up in
Tobago, and then
Trinidad?
came to the came to the States. My parents were educators, and actually ended up in a town at a school called Oakwood University in Huntsville, Alabama. So they were both. My parents were West Indian, so grew up in a staunch West Indian childhood in Trinidad and Tobago, God's country. But yeah, ended up in Huntsville, where I actually stayed there, and that's why I ended up at University of Alabama, Huntsville, which was an excellent engineering school. NASA had a presence there,
Mm.
and yeah, so that's why I kicked it off.
Well,
But a
good.
Trinity
Uh,
boy at heart.
strict household, and I imagine, like, the accountability was big. So I'm from the Caribbean
Absolutely.
myself, so I know what it's all about.
You understand. If you come home with 97 on the test, it's like, oh my gosh, you missed three of them. You miss how you missed three. So yeah,
That's too funny. That's too
yeah,
funny, man. Thanks for sharing that, though, because that's a hell of a concert coming out the gate right out of school. I usually don't hear that. About 90% of the time, I'm hearing, like, I kind of fell into it. I got in the help
yeah,
desk and it kind of worked my way up, which is not the wrong issue, but like, that's a pretty high, standard right out the
yeah.
gate. So
Yeah, it was
from
a
there, right
blessing.
outside the gate, like at NASA, what was the next, what was that next, role for you?
The next role was as a consultant with Accenture. Actually, when I started, it was actually Anderson Consulting when I started, and worked on a few projects there. The regional ordering system, and that was the main one. Then the local number portability. I think it was LNP, where you could port
Yep.
all your phone numbers. So worked there. Actually ended up leading a team. Had half of my team in Bangalore. So I was what we call a delivery team lead. Half of my team was in Bangalore with a 9.5 hour time difference, and the other part was here in the Eastern United States. That's when outsourcing was big. But Accenture was Anderson, then Accenture was a good company, good
Oh,
experience. Again, worked alongside some great leaders early in my career that really kind of helped shape and mold me as I continued to develop.
man, that's awesome. So from NASA to Accenture, and I believe, Accenture is one of those organizations who you have to travel a little bit, spend a lot of time at different enterprises. You must have gained a lot of experience in a short period of time.
Well, yeah, and it kind of depends. They had the consulting side and the services side. So I was on the services side. So I was based out of Atlanta, then Birmingham, then back to Atlanta. So I didn't have to travel as much as the consultant side did, the consultants did on the consulting side, where they were essentially living out of a suitcase. So I
Yeah.
did get to plant some roots
Yeah. I bet.
and be around home. So yeah.
That's excellent. So from Accenture, and the reason why I'm trying to piece this together
Hmm.
for us is, like, we'll land to that North Star, right? But I will tell you, like, from there, I think Cisco is the next stop. And I know there
Cisco,
was an
yep.
entrepreneurship
Cisco was
opportunity.
actually Scientific Atlanta when I started there, and I think Cisco then purchased them for $6.9 billion. I think a little bit after I was there. So I was working on as an engineer and leading a couple teams there, working on set top boxes and what have you. But Cisco was absolutely the next stop. Yep.
That's big. So you were part of
Yeah.
a company that was acquired by Cisco for 6.9 billion.
Yeah, yeah. Scientific Atlanta was acquired by Cisco. I was only there maybe about 3, 4 months before they acquired them. So
Oh.
maybe I did it. Maybe it's because of me, right? But no, I don't know.
Yeah,
But
yeah. They heard you were coming, so they that's one way to get you. Let me just buy them, right?
so they wanted Brian 6.9 billion.
Companies
But
do
yeah,
it all the
it was
time.
a great company. It was a great company and a good experience. And then you see, there's still a very viable company now. So
Oh,
again, it was another notch in the belt to be able to work alongside such so many engineers.
oh, for sure. So let's call it from, like, right out of school, right from Nassau to from then. How many years we're talking? Because you that's not, three massive global, organizations, like
Yeah.
prestigious organizations to work for in probably a short period of time.
Yeah, so
That's
NASA was I think probably about maybe what, 4 or 5 years at NASA.
yeah.
Let's see, about I think maybe another 5 or 6 at Accenture.
Hmm.
Again, started Anderson Consulting, then Accenture, became Accenture, and then the next 5 or 6 at, Cisco, working in the, SPVTG, I believe it was, Service Provider Video Technology Group. I'm proud that I remember that actually,
That's
so
pretty that's pretty
acronym.
impressive, actually. I
For
can't
it
remember what
being
happened
so
last
long
week.
ago.
Yes,
Right,
on
right,
certain
especially
things.
with this age.
That's right. I'm like, I'm not too far, we're not much of a gap prophecy. It's just
Yeah,
that, the body of blood keeps you, keeps, you know what I'm talking about, keeps us a little, looks a
I
little younger than
understand.
I might be,
Mm,
but my
I
body feels
understand.
different.
Well, you look young, brother, you look young.
So do you, man. You look good. You're in shape too, man. Like
We're
that's what
trying.
when I met you in person in Atlanta. What was it at Converge this time in New York?
Yeah,
I
it
was
was
like,
New York, yeah,
man,
yeah.
Brian's in shape. He
We
takes
try,
care of himself.
brother, we
Yeah.
try. Yeah. If
Were you
not,
an
we just
athlete at
duct
all,
tape it
playing
up.
all your life? Oh yeah,
What's
you
that?
get that's what you got dark colors for. I like that. But during high school or anything in college at all, did you ever play sports?
Yeah, yeah, played a little basketball, played a little soccer,
Yeah.
as we call proper football. So, played a pretty high level, but, yeah, so not like your son,
No.
didn't get that high,
No.
but yeah, we did our thing for a little bit.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
I know Trinidad and in the Caribbean, they play some soccer. I mean
Oh,
football.
yeah.
They
Yeah,
don't mess
I
around.
play football, play a little cricket, yeah,
Yeah.
good
Do you
stuff.
still play at all, or you just?
Not much, my friend. Maybe a little golf. But yeah,
Oh, okay.
we got a lot of mileage on these knees,
You can
so
swing
we
a little
put the
bit.
square wheels on. Yeah, we swing a little bit, but we don't play
Yeah.
too much of that. I don't want to pull something or tear something. It's
Oh,
just for show.
just for sure. I got
It's
you.
just for
I got it.
show.
It's presence, right in the room.
Yeah, no
You know.
utility out of this.
Yo, too much, man. So out the gate, you tell me about all that, which I love, and then which I was really intrigued when we were met for the first time. You spend time as an entrepreneur. I
Hmm.
want to double click on that a little bit. How long did you do it? Because that's a big move, right? You went
Yeah,
from these massive organizations, and then you say, you know what? I'm gonna change a different hat. I'm gonna go into entrepreneurship, which is not easy. It's
it's
very
not.
difficult. It may look
Yeah,
easy, but when you're in it, right?
yeah.
It's like it's a whole other aspect of the doing business that you don't think about every day. People may take for granted every day. How long did you do it for, and what would you say kind of biggest lessons you learned?
I probably did that for about we did it for about 5 or 6 years. And the impetus for that was really when spending time consulting, especially with Accenture and then even working at Cisco, I was like, you know what, I can get a group of my buddies from university, we can provide these same type of services
Sure.
for lower cost, but we could do it for ourselves. And so it was exciting. It was challenging.
Yeah.
You ended up having to write and submit proposals. Don't know if you're going to get the gig or get the opportunity or what have you, but it was definitely a learning experience. One of the things that we learned or we were reminded of is the customer centric approach and how necessary that is. When you're in a bigger company, sometimes you get lost. You're dealing with your internal customers. Sometimes you're dealing with teams. Sometimes you have a project that you just focused on and you have the tendency to get myopic. But when you're running the entire organization and you have to eat, then you're reminded about, hey, I've got what's really important here. The people we're working with, the people we're working alongside, the people we're partnering with. Are we a sub on this contract? How can we deliver? And then you also remind that, you know what, you need to underpromise and overdeliver. You need to be responsive, you need to be proactive, not reactive, and you need to be resilient. And so
Wait.
those were some of the things that although we knew them, we were reminded of. And I can't focus too much on that customer centricity part of it, if you will, because that's so important, especially when you're having those one-to-ones and you're directly interfacing with the customer and you have to look them in the eye, you have to commit to something, you have to deliver, you've got to over communicate, you've got to manage expectations, and then
Wait.
it's all on you. So those things that happen in a big company, a big firm, they're all kind of magnified when it's you and through your buddies and you're trying to deliver the same quality product
Oh
with
yeah.
less infrastructure and less overhead.
Oh yeah. I mean that was well. I couldn't say it any better. That was like
Yeah,
if everybody's listening, like capture that right there, and that's the
yeah,
definition. I mean,
And I know
that's
you understand, bro. I know
oh,
you understand
mm,
firsthand, my friend,
oh yeah.
and
When you
you've
said
done it successfully a few times.
I appreciate that, but you're right. Like, it's a reality check when you got to eat, right? And
Right.
you have to go. You got to go hunt the food, right? You got to find it. You got to get
You
it,
eat
and then
what
you
you
got to cook
kill.
it.
You
You
eat
got to
what
take
you
care of
kill.
it. Absolutely. So, that's I love asking that because I got to imagine. And you did that 5 6 years, and then you went
Mhm,
back into the corporate side. Let's say on the business side, right?
mhm.
Versus being an entrepreneur. How was that transition for you, man?
Well, first I'll tell you what kinda spurred that transition, and this was right around the time when outsourcing again was still kind of big. And so
Okay.
what would happen is even though we had the quality individuals and intellectual capital on our side to compete with those bigger firms, we didn't have that infrastructure when they were paying resources, nearshore or offshore, they were paying, numbers that we could not pay for, or if we wanted to have some of those our clients meet directly with our resources, then we'd have to fly our resources in from India. So we just didn't have the infrastructure to compete. And then you've got these net 30, net 60, but you got your
Oh,
guys to pay and some of those challenges. So when they say, well,
it's funny.
Brian, we can only do a net 30, but you've got people that you've committed to, so you've got to pay. So if it was just me, honestly, if it was just me, I'm sure I could have stayed at it and we would have
Yeah.
absolutely been successful. But then when you've got a wife and kids and private schools in the works and
Oh
music
yeah.
lessons and sports and whatever, you've got to make a decision like, hey, I can do this. And I'm sure if I stick at it, I will be successful. I'm going to grind.
That's right.
But you also say, hey, I've got some mouths back in the nest to feed and I've got to earn right now.
That's
So
right.
that was the impetus for the decision, and then from that standpoint, the transition itself wasn't hard. I'd been in that world. It started, I'd been in corporate for years, so
Yeah.
getting back in there, leveraging those relationships, jumping back in was not really complicated.
Yeah.
Missed the hunt, the eating what you kill, but understood the dynamic and the choices I had to make to do it. So
For
we're
sure.
happy. Yeah.
Let me ask you, so thanks for breaking that down like that, but you could be more spot on about that. Anything that you took from, let's say, everything you learned about, during your experience in entrepreneurship that
Mhm.
benefited you going back in corporate?
Absolutely. So that customer centricity that we had to refocus on, we were able to take that and propagate it back into that
That's
corporate
right.
environment and just have a renewed vigor in how we're going to approach these relationships and the authenticity of it and managing those expectations and just owning things and making sure we understood that we wanted to deliver instead of just handing something off to the next person in line. We want to make sure we see it all the way through because that's the mentality that we had to have when our name was on it at the top of it and this was our business. And so being able to take that philosophy and then make sure we leverage that same mindset in corporate only makes you better at what you do.
Absolutely. I love you said that. I saw the message I got from that too is, and I can relate when you're talking about like, seeing something all the way through as an entrepreneur. It's like
Hmm.
key, right? You don't
Right.
have the luxury of,
Right.
I'm hearing the new word is punting stuff over. I'm like,
Right. Right. You don't
what is
get to
punt?
punt.
There's no punting nothing,
Right.
like, but if you have that mentality, like, you probably don't understand that in corporate. Like, wait a
Yeah.
second, I'm going to see this all the way through.
Yeah.
But I feel
Yeah.
like that ownership mentality, like, it's
Yeah.
got to be almost like a secret weapon for you,
And what you just said, though, man, was just so apropos. If you can, I mean, you just broke it down. When you're on your own, when you're an entrepreneur, you don't get to punt.
No,
You
no,
don't get to punt. But if you take that same mindset back into corporate, then it just shows more accountability.
that's right.
So even when you hand it off, and that's leadership, even when you hand it off, you're going to make sure that John, Jim, Susie, they're making sure that it gets to where it needs to get. You're not just saying, hey, I did my part, here you are. But no, you're accountable for all of it. And that's leadership.
That's a great segue to
Ownership,
try to get
leadership. Yeah.
ownership. I like that. Let say that. I love that one. That's a excellent marketing teams. I love that ownership, leadership combo right there. That's like a nice 1-2 punch. So I know you're a fight fan like me. Um, Crawford,
Absolutely.
ooh, put on a show. What do you think?
Yes.
Crawford,
Yes.
he put
Yes.
on a boxing
Yeah.
match today.
Yeah.
It was just,
Yeah.
it was a
And
boxing.
that's what it is. That's what they call the sweet science, right?
That's oh yeah. Oh,
That's
he could have
that's
did
what
that
it
12 more
is.
rounds.
You're
If
right,
they fight again,
absolutely.
he's gonna do it. If they fight 10 times, he'll do the same thing 10 more times. He
Stick and
just
move. Hit
100%.
hard and be hard to hit.
Yeah, and Terrence is would you put him
Yeah,
up there real quick? Like, I know we're sidebarring here, but that's who we are, right? So,
absolutely.
Terrence, Mayweather, what do you think?
I just not ready to put that give him that Mayweather status yet. And then there's some of the ones I really love too with Sugar Ray.
Oof.
And even though Marvin Hagler was more of a pugilist than Sugar Ray, he was still kind of pure to me. Sugar Ray was more of a pure boxer, but
Yes, he was.
but I'm still in that era where I like those guys, Hagler, Hearns, and Leonard. I mean that triumvirate right there was, and then of course, you got to talk about the Panamanian Hands of
I
Stone,
was about to
Duran.
jump in there in a minute because
Yeah,
I didn't hear him. I was like, "You
you gotta
forgot
put
one guy in
Duran.
there."
You gotta put Roberto Duran, but that's my age, and I know you can
That
relate.
oh, yeah.
Those are the ones I look at. Those were those fighters. You had the pure boxer, you had
Mhm.
the brawler who was still kind of sexy with it, and Hagler, and then you had Hearns with that heavy hand, and then you
Oof.
had Hands of Stone, and he just
And
wanted to
Stone
brawl
just
too, and that forced him right there. That was a
a
yeah,
absolutely. It's hard to,
epic
like, kinda
battles.
pick up it changes for me, like, it's hard to pick, like, even the top 5 these days, right? It's so
Yeah,
many fighters.
yeah.
But I love about Sugar Ray. Sugar Ray, I tell people, "Yeah, sweet science, but don't get it twisted. He will knock you out 2 seconds." Like,
He
he was a
will.
killer.
He
Sugar
will
was a killer,
absolutely. Absolutely, but
that's what I love
Hearns
about him.
and he was probably my favorite, but Hearns had probably the heaviest hands of all 4 of those
Oh,
guys, man.
just moves forward.
But what they call him, the Motor City Cobra, is that what they called him?
Oh, with
The
Hearns,
Motor
oh,
City Cobra.
he had that crippling because he was so long and so big, so his punch was even I think it was like 6'2" for that weight
Yeah,
class, and he's coming long
yep,
on you, and, like, you better get inside or you're gonna get eaten up. Like, that
yeah,
Hagler-Hearns fight, the first one, first
yeah,
3 rounds well,
yeah,
first round, really, right, was the best
yeah,
one.
it was a brawl, yeah,
Man, we can have
yeah.
a whole podcast probably talking about that,
Absolutely, we could.
but it was good, it was good. There's another good one coming up, though, I gotta tell you, David Benavidez is a dude. Like, I don't know if
Okay.
you did fight it. He's fighting this kid. He moved up to light heavyweight. Canelo didn't wanna fight him. He's a tall, half Mexican, half Ecuadorian kid. He's just killer. Like, he's
He's
just
fast too? Is he fast?
fast, fast,
Yeah,
fast,
yeah,
fast. Great
yeah.
story about him. I'll send you some stuff. I'll send you
Okay.
some I know you So, let me ask you that. So let's talk about you went through all that, and I love you said
Uh-huh.
right here, ownership and leadership. When was your first opportunity when you became the CIO for the first time?
My CIO for the first time was Atlanta Housing, and I had been reporting to I was leading half the team and reporting to the CIO, and I had left to go run the IT department for another company called MCIC Vermont. I had left Atlanta Housing. Then my predecessor, who I had reported to, he left, and
Oh,
so Atlanta Housing, they called me back, and I had a good rapport. Half of the team had reported to me, so I had good relationships there, which are, so integral to our success. And so I was given that opportunity, maybe 2018, I believe, to be CIO of Atlanta Housing, and that was and that organization as well. We considered ourselves a private real estate company with a public mission, if you will, and
okay.
lion's share of the funding coming from HUD and supporting the initiatives in the city. Over 70,000 residents and participants being supported, over
Wow.
23,000 households. So it was a pretty big job. Got political at times, being right there in the city of Atlanta, but we did some good work supporting not just the enterprise,
Mhm.
but kind of making sure we supported all those families and households and individuals as well.
Wow. Well, congrats on
Yeah,
that. And that was
yeah,
it's had to call you back and say, that
yeah,
we got the person for the job.
yeah.
Let's
It was a
before we go to
blessing.
market, let me draft them back in here, right? That's
Yeah.
awesome. So you have and it sounds like was it government ran or just funded or was it a private
So
entity?
it was kind of a hybrid. So we had the
Okay.
footprint of the city where the mayor was responsible for selecting our board of commissioners, but
Okay.
the funding to the tune of about 600, $700 million a year came from the federal government in the form of HUD funds. So
Okay.
there was accountability, kind of checks and balances on both sides. A city footprint because we was housing authority of the city of Atlanta, but again funded on the federal side side. And then again, had some flexibility to do some things that private organizations would do in terms of tax incentives, initiatives for developers and what have you. So it was a pretty, again, it was the way they, I think they used to phrase it at the time I was there, was a private real estate company
Hmm.
because of the investments and the mindset, but with a public mission because of who they were serving.
I mentioned. Thanks for breaking that down. That
Yeah.
was awesome. It sounded like it was the best of both worlds, like two different companies and
Yeah.
two different
Yeah.
missions almost, right?
Yeah.
That's excellent. So and then from there, like, you've been the CIO for since 2018, so you've been doing this for a while, right?
Hmm.
What would you say before you took that job, everything you know now, right now, right? Which is a little bit, right?
A little bit. A little bit.
um, a little bit. I know you're humble. I know you're humble. So, what would you tell yourself right before accepting that job on what to prepare for, what to look out for?
A couple things. One was we know it's always about the people. The technology is easy. We've been doing that. I've been doing that all my life. I get it. I understand the zeros and ones and registers. So we can go all the way back to building computers. We understand the technology, but it's really about the people, and it's
Wow.
always been about the people. It's about the people you're serving, the people you're ultimately working for. That could be like Atlanta Housing, where we were serving residents. It could be a private industry where you have customers. Then it's also about your internal customers that you're serving and you're supporting and understanding the mission of the organization. And it's also about the people you're working alongside, the people you're working for, and the people that work for you. So both those vertical and horizontal relationships are
Yeah.
so important. It's important to understand that everybody adds value. Everybody adds value. It's just incumbent upon us as leaders to put them in the situation where they can succeed, where they can maximize that potential. So understanding what their needs are, how to service them, how to help them, how to be a servant leader to help them be their best, to create environments where they're unafraid to fail. I think is so important. I think it's also important as practitioners that we understand the business. IT again is always easy. That's always come easy for me. But when I went to get a second degree, I made sure that it was so when I was first coming up, you would get an maybe computer science, maybe math, maybe computer engineering, maybe electrical engineering, maybe any combination of those two. And then that second degree would be a master's in computer science. That kind of changed where I was like, you know what? I've got the technical. Let me get an MBA. Let me
Mhm.
understand how business works. So I understood that. That was helpful for me. And I actually did that right before I'd finished that degree, right before I started this first CIO position.
Oh,
But
wow.
the other thing is not just learning how business works in general, but from a specific standpoint, learning the business where you work, whatever that industry is. Learning that industry, learning your competitors, you can better help execute on that strategy. You can better help service that organization, support that organization if you understand the underworkings of it, the inner workings, how it goes, how to undergird it, how to support your customers, what they need, what the ultimate customer end users are looking for, what the industry is like. And then
Sure.
also another thing that was so important, so integral is understand how to be strategic. Understand the value of having a strategy. Understand that we've got an overarching strategy of the
Mhm.
organization, but we have to create a technology strategy that's supportive of and anchored by that overarching strategy. So we can't just go off in a vacuum and say this is what we know. We've got to understand the business, understand their strategy, understand what's revenue generating, understand the value prop, and then go craft our strategy, be strategic. So if we can do all that,
Love
we
that.
understand the tech, we understand the people, we understand the importance of those relationships vertically and horizontally, and then we understand how to be strategic. I think we can do ourselves the best, give ourselves the best chance to succeed.
Wow, man. I mean, I would, I wish I had a little playback, run back right now, man. That was like statement after statement after statement, best practice, man. That was so right. I mean, the good thing about this for me, selfishly, the
Hmm.
opportunity to have meet with a lot of different CIOs and ask that question. And I'll tell you, what's really good to hear is that you kind of like it's always people first, and
Mhm.
and IT is the business now, right? We are the business,
Right.
right?
Absolutely.
And knowing the
We're
business
an
exactly.
enabler, an activator, a driver. We're not just a cost center anymore. We're not just keeping the
No,
lights on. We need to be an integral part of how we're going to be successful as a business. How are we going to execute on this strategy?
when did you feel like kind of in the market, like when did you feel like that turned, like where it started, like really, I don't know, it was like years ago or a decade ago, or because I've been hearing that for quite some time. Because it was the other way. It was just throw technology at an issue, right? Throw like
Right. Right.
money at something. That's not solving the problem, right? So when do you feel like, that it turned in the industry for us?
Well, I think we first have to realize that that our role, the chief information officer, that role in and of itself is not even 40 years old. And then
That's a
even
good
when it
point.
was first instituted, it would report up through the CFO or the COO, and then you'd have the different challenges on either paradigm. But I guess over the last 25 years, and this is consistent and correlated with this shift in these dynamic technologies when
Sure.
people realize that, listen, in order for you to run a successful business, there is going to be a reliance on technology. I don't care if you are selling lemonade outside in the neighborhood. If
That's
your
right.
business gets big enough, you're going to be using Square app. You're going to be using
Oh yeah.
something on machine. You're going to employ some type of technology. So as business leaders, started to realize over the last 25 years that all these dynamic technologies at the disposal can only make them more successful, more competitive, give them a bigger market share. Then they started to realize the importance of having a leader that would do more than just be a cost center, that would do more than just keep the lights on. And
Absolutely.
I think data and the growth of data and data becoming that oil
Hmm.
now, I think has been an integral part of that also because you want what gets measured gets improved. You want the data. If you're in retail, you want to know what your consumers are buying, how they're buying it, when they're buying it. You want to know what your competitors are selling, what they're doing. So, and that's just one example.
That's a
One
great
example, we
example.
could drill down nonstop. But I think data, so I think the marriage of data and these dynamic technologies, whether we're talking about predictive analytics, IoT, machine learning, all the way to Gen AI now,
That's right.
I think that those dynamic technologies, along with the data that it leverages and moves through the life cycle, I think that confluence over the last 20, 25 years, I think that has really been when we've seen the change and how
That's
the
right.
value of the CIO position has increased. And then again, it becomes incumbent upon us now to not just stay over there in the corner, but understand that we've got to learn the business as well.
Absolutely. Man, that was well. Man, I think that are you sure you're not like moonlighting with like being a professor as well? Because you're a really good teacher,
No.
man. Like, I don't know. I think to get Clark, Atlanta's getting like a 3 for 1. Because I'll tell you, man, you break it down, you know, excellent, and the flow of everything in a big sense. So let me ask you that. Being a
Mhm,
CIO, I mean, communication and storytelling and all that, how important that is. And
mhm.
what does that rank amongst the skill set if you have to evaluate somebody to be at that level?
Well, communication, I think, is paramount, and I think that's honestly, I think that's in any
Anything.
position, but definitely in our position. In our position, it goes back to that learning the business because we have to be bilingual. When we're talking to our
Mm,
group, we can talk in a lot. We can talk in acronyms. We can talk this. We can talk tech all day. But when we're talking to the board of the executive board, or when we're talking
mhm.
to the executive cabinet or executive committee or your leadership, and you're talking to that C-suite, you've got to be able to present it in a way that's digestible to them. And it can't be that tech speak. So you've got to be
No.
bilingual. You've got to show them, you've got to talk KPIs, you've got to talk OKRs, you've got to be able to show the value prop, whether we're talking about quantitatively, qualitatively, you've got to be able to do it. So you've got to be able to communicate that effectively. And I don't care how well you're communicating to your group over there on the side with all those acronyms, all those things we like to use as
Oh,
techies. When
yeah.
you're coming talking to lay people,
Hmm.
you've got to be able to again change translate it or be bilingual. So communication is key from that standpoint, but
That's right.
communication is also key in terms of managing expectations, making sure that we're clear, making sure that we're setting goals, making sure that when we're talking to our teams, that we're communicating, we have to be clear on what the goals are, we have to be clear on what the timelines are, we have to be
Sure.
clear and consistent with our messaging in terms of, hey, I have to make sure that you understand so you can know how to execute. So communication is so key. And then communication is also key when there are difficult situations.
Talk to me. I
Um,
like that. I love it.
one book I read is Crucial Conversations.
Crucial con.
And the book is called Crucial Conversations. I can't think of the author right now, but it's a wonderful book because what I remember gleaning from this book is that you've got to be 100% honest and you've got to be 100% respectful when communicating. And this is what I realized happens when you're communicating. Sometimes people are 100% honest but they're not respectful. So now they're rude. Now they're kind of curt. Now they're not really getting their message across kindly and politely, and it's not being received. And that doesn't go well. Or they're 100%. That's the 100% honest side. Then
Sure.
they're 100. Then the other side is they're 100% respectful, where they're deferential. They're not really clearly communicating the problems they have or the issues they're having, and now they're getting run over and they're not being heard. So we've got to find that balance where we can be 100% respectful and we can be 100% honest. These are the problems I have, but you still understand the dynamic. You've got to eat. You still want to you don't want to sever a relationship. So you've got to communicate that same message respectfully. So that's been one of the things I've tried to take. That's been one of the things I've tried to impart to my team, to my children, the people around me, people I'm mentoring, that you've got to be 100% respectful and you've got to be 100% honest. You can't go half and half. You can't go all in on one and not in on the other. You're either going to get run over if you're just being respectful and differential and you're not being honest, or if you're
Yeah.
just being honest, you're not being respectful, then you're going to be looking for employment.
Love the
So
job.
you've
Either
got,
way. Either way.
right. So you've got to you've got to strike that balance. And within
That was
that
awesome.
construct, none of it matters if you're not listening. If you're not
Oh,
listening,
I
you've
mean,
got to listen. So before you even start to communicate, you've got to listen. You've got to read the room. You've got to know your audience. Who am I communicating to? How do they need to hear this? And sometimes we also have to, by reading the room, you've got to understand that brevity is important. Sometimes a long message is not good. Let's just get to the good
no,
part.
it's where the
So,
EQ comes in too, right? Like
absolutely.
you gotta know that
Absolutely. You got to
and
read the
really
room. Or you got to have a wife that'll let you know when you're up there talking, like, all right,
safe
that's
word. Safe
right. Exactly.
But let me tell you, you
Exactly.
know what we call this? I mean, first of all, I mean, boom. I mean, like straight up, like that was one of the biggest lessons I've learned. I hear and articulate it in like maybe 5 years.
Yeah.
Straight up. I'm straight. I was like, man, I wish I met you like 10 years ago.
Oh, you're
Um,
kind.
but before in the mic drop is before all of that, you need to listen. I couldn't
You
agree
got
with
to
you more
listen.
because
You got to listen.
you gotta understand the whole thing, right? Before you make that honest feedback and that. How do you find it? Because I struggle a lot, an entrepreneur, I'm from New York, I'm Puerto Rican. So let me just add that, right? People confuse like that direct respectful style. It's just the way we talk.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? How do
Mhm.
you like, how do you balance that? Because sometimes it could be direct and I care, I respect you, but I'm just being direct. you know?
Well, there's absolutely nothing wrong with being direct, and you also know that there's an authenticity which you come across. And then the other thing that undergirds it is before you've even gotten there, you've usually had there's a relationship. If there's a relationship there, there's a trust. You can say some things to your kids, to your teammates, to your peers, to your colleagues that somebody from the outside might be like, wow, that was kind of curt. Wow, that was short and direct, but everybody else, no, the person that received it knows the relationship that you have with them, know that you have a history of making sure that you have their best, their welfare in mind, that you will go to bat for them. So when you have that conversation, that context is there, that pretext is there, and that pretext is that you care about them, you've shown it, you've demonstrated it, and they know it and they feel it. So even in those difficult times when you're communicating directly, and it may not sound as nice as some people on the outside may want it to sound, they still know who you are.
Yes, right.
And if they know who you are, and it's relational and not simply transactional, then the outcomes will always be better. There's always going to be a transactional component, but when there's a relational component to it there, then you're safer there because you can trust.
Right.
With my family, I can say certain things to my son that somebody might be like, why is he talking to him like that? But the boy knows. The boy, listen, I
Yeah.
fed him, I
Yeah.
raised him, I
100%.
provided for him, I'm covering him. So I've got a little
Oh,
latitude
you got
there.
yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah, you got a little space there, right? A little
Right,
cushion,
right,
a little cushion.
right. Now in
I
those
love
now
it.
in those new situations when you're when that relationship is not there, hasn't been cultivated and nurtured to the extent that some other ones have, then it's incumbent upon me to make sure that I'm effectively communicating, and that may mean I may need to dial it back. Now sometimes it's hard. Grown folk don't change. I'm at 55. I'm not necessarily going to change the way I've communicated
That's
over the
too hard
last
to
50
do.
some years. But again, it goes back to that EQ you're talking about, and you're
Yeah.
reading the room, and you know your audience, and that's how it works. I'll give you a quick example. I've got a buddy that coached he had a son and a daughter. He was coaching both of the teams basketball.
Okay.
So his son's team, I think they were down by a few points. They'd made some mistakes. He turned around at the bench. He's like, what the hell are you guys doing? Get yourself together, pull yourself together. You've got to get in this game. You've got to
Sure.
win. Come on, let's go, guys, fight. And the guys are okay, let's go. Got it, let's go. He did that same thing first time coaching his daughter's team.
Ooh.
He turned around like, what the hell are you girls doing? Get together. You're really messing up. You're not playing right. Get your head in the game. He turns back around. They're all crying.
Oh,
your, your father's mean. I
yeah.
hate this. He said the same thing. He delivered the same
The
message
same
in the
exact
same situation,
wow.
but the audience was different. One received it, one did not. That was a lesson to me. Know your audience, know what they respond. Something that works over here with John may
Uh-huh.
not be what Jim needs to motivate him. So
Oh,
you've got
definitely.
to have that EQ.
Oh, amen. You said again, man, you're spot on. Let me ask you about your friend. So how many moms were jumping outside the stands when he did that?
Right. To come
I
protect their
coached a
daughters.
long time, and the players
Right.
are not the issue, man. Let me tell you that.
You're right about that,
And we're
my
pretty
friend. It is
passionate
always
about
the
baseball down in
parents.
Miami.
Yeah.
It's passionate. I call it
It is
passionate.
always the parents. You guys will get in a
Oh,
fight over a strike zone, huh?
oh man, we went to Disney, like Worldwide Sports, and we had security follow us around, man. They're not passionate at 11 years old. I mean,
Right.
so
It's
it's not even like
intense.
real stuff yet, right? So I could
It's
imagine.
intense.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
kudos to you on having the real stuff on
hey,
deck. And you see the on deck pun there. So,
man, you're too much, man. You know what? Talking to you about everything, and I'm just I usually don't take this many notes, man. I'll be straight up. And but there's a lot of nuggets here. I call them nuggets, like you said here. Like I'm like, and straight up, guys, just everybody who not rehearsed anything. This is real. Like this is real as it gets.
I love it.
He's a
I love
natural.
it.
When I think about you right now and getting to know you a little bit, I go, dude, this guy got leadership all day and night, all over the place. And I'm like, you know, you're a CIO that's tech. I feel like you correct me if I'm wrong, but like the CIO, fought to get a seat at the table. But I feel like it's bigger than that now because
Yeah.
where IT is taken with AI
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
all that, it's unloaded.
Mhm.
Like, right now, to me, I see CIOs moving into that CEO seat.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, and especially even from the CIO standpoint, you don't want to be handed a strategy and said and then told to go execute. You
Mhm.
want like that seat at the table because you want to leverage your intellect. You want to leverage that thought leadership you have to help them understand how to harness these dynamic technologies, whether we're talking about quantum computing, whether we're talking about Gen AI, well, you
Right.
want to be able to be a part of developing that strategy because you know the value prop for it. You know how to implement it. You know if it makes sense. You don't get caught up on those use cases like everybody is, like, these shiny new toy, Gen AI. Let's think use case, use case. No, you are comprehensive and thought enough to be able to look at it from the business case and
Yes.
not just as a good CIO able to look at it from the business case, but's able to articulate the business value all the way to where it can be a revenue generator or a cost saver. So what else would you want in a CEO
Oh,
anyway?
I think that's the full package because you think about it, it's like probably the one position that touches every corner of the business.
Mhm.
IT, right?
Absolutely.
Like,
It's a
you know,
thread. It's a thread
yes,
throughout the
that's
entire through every business unit.
totally like we can
Yeah.
argue that the other ones made it, but I feel like that you said it that it's a thread throughout the
A
whole
thread,
organization.
a cog, if you will.
Now, that's huge, man. This has been, tremendous. I mean, you have a lot to offer, man. I think we got to go round two. Um,
I'm good
seriously,
with it.
like
I
straight up.
like the boxing analogies also. I'm good with
Oh,
it.
oh man, I tell people, I told the other kid the other day, I was like, man, don't throw your right hand right away, man. Just work it in a little bit and then go, man. Don't give it
Jab,
away.
little
Oh yeah.
jab first.
Oh, you have to. You have to. Or like I tell these guys, like, don't throw your best fastball already, man. What's wrong with you? Like, set them up. Set them up. It's just coaching in me, right? For years. I do miss that stuff though. I ain't gonna lie. Now I'm more of a consultant with my son.
There you
Like,
go.
because he has, real coaches, and I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm like, oh, really? They told you that? And I tell my wife, I've
And you
been
get to
telling
be
him
a
that for
fan.
years. I've been telling him that for years.
Yeah, they gotta hear it from somebody else, right?
Oh, same shit
They
with
gotta
the
hear it
wife
from
in the
somebody
house.
else.
Oh
That
God,
familiarity breeds contempt sometimes. They gotta hear it from outside.
how about what about you hire a interior decorator, you hire something in your house, and you've been telling your lady like, no, we need to do this, and then a contractor says, oh, we got to do this. The
Right.
same thing. I don't know what to do. I'm gonna just start hiring people to tell them, hey, tell her this, tell her this.
Exactly.
But it
Exactly.
goes. Let me ask you: does that trickle that type of thing? Right? We're messing around and have a good time about it,
Mhm.
but that happens at work too, in general. Sometimes
Absolutely.
employees, like the team members, are like, you've been saying the same thing. You've been hitting that hammer on the head a lot, right?
Mhm.
Some a consultant comes in outside, a center or whoever
Mhm.
it is, and
Mhm.
now they say, you know, don't get threatened. They may validate exactly what you've been saying the whole time. And you're like,
Right.
I could have saved you a lot of money, right?
Right.
How do you
Right.
handle that? Like, that you kind of accept that, or do you kind of like, it's too smooth? You're probably more like, "I- you don't even need to say anything. It just said itself."
I try to get out in front of those things because when you're
Okay.
getting that pushback, you kind of ask yourself, well, what is the reason? What's the reason why we're getting this pushback? What's the reason why they're not on board? So sometimes, and then the other thing is, you always want consensus, right? And consensus doesn't mean it has to be everybody. Sometimes the majority is enough, and sometimes that majority isn't a 4-3. Sometimes that majority can be 1-6 if that one is the right one. So
Is the right one?
you go leverage those relationships and you go make sure you have that buy-in. But the other thing, sometimes where we fail, and especially when you're looking at change management, you definitely need it at the top. You need that buy-in at the top, obviously, because that's where the dollars are going to come from. But you also need buy-in from everybody that's going to be a part of the process. You need buy-in from the middle, the people, the middle management. You need buy-in from the people at the bottom that are going to be executing. And I'm careful when I use the bottom, but
Yeah.
those are the ones that are really doing the work. So
That's right.
you need buy-in at that level. You need buy-in from your partners that you're going to be working alongside. And so once you understand, you're not gonna sway everybody, but if you understand what's important to them, it's usually either something that's saving cost,
Mhm.
increasing efficiencies, increasing productivity, or somehow revenue generating, or all of the above. And if you
Mhm.
can show that with them, that what's in it for me, if you can explain that to them, and you can
With
explain the value prop, then you're really not going to get that pushback, and you won't have to wait for the consultant to come in and tell you that, hey, you need this, so this is what, and for you to be like, hey, I've been telling you that.
yeah,
So
exactly.
we read the room, we understand where the pushback is coming from, and we send in our emissaries, or we develop those relationships. So sometimes we even have business relationship managers
Hmm.
inside of those business units to kind of almost be an emissary, an advocate, a vicar for us in those spaces. And then when you have a situation where you've got somebody that's most difficult, sometimes people like to shy away from those situations, those relationships. No, those are the ones that you have to work on. Those
That's
are the
right.
ones that you really have to massage. Don't run from those relationships. Go ahead and dig in and find out what the commonality is
Yep.
and land there.
I love that.
So,
Like, I like to kind of go into that, what you said there, like, where the noise, go to it, like, go into
yeah,
that fire, like, just find out
yeah,
that that's the only, don't assumption to mess you up,
yeah,
your
yeah.
midst. But that was phenomenal. I got a couple more things for you. I got to ask. So, how important, you're calculating what you're doing, and you got to get everybody buy in. But at the end of the day, there's still risk. How do you manage risk? Like, you still got to take bets because
Well,
no one has,
you
you know what I'm saying?
absolutely
Like,
have to take risk, but you've got to, I guess the first thing you, and I love that you bring this up because this is so important, especially as leaders. But first, you have to understand your risk tolerance. So certain industries may have a higher or lower risk tolerance. If we're in the, for instance, NASA, the risk tolerance there was very low.
extremely.
Also in finance, the risk tolerance may be very low. In healthcare, the risk tolerance may be very low. Now, if you're selling some other products or consumer goods, that risk tolerance may be a little higher. So you've got to understand your risk tolerance. And
That's
once you
right.
understand that risk tolerance, you basically now have to decide, okay, what risk are we willing to accept? And then also, what mitigation will we have in place? What's the worst thing that can happen, and make sure that those risks are there, the mitigation are there, the assumptions are there, and they're communicated. But again, it starts with not just identifying the risk, but understanding your risk tolerance for your organization, your leadership, and the industry that you're in. And then you can decide what risk you're willing to assume or not. But I love that you brought that up because that's a real leadership conversation that many people miss.
Oh, well, I appreciate that, man. I think you bring it out of me, man, because I'll tell you, man, I'm genuinely curious. Like the way it's like, I just like, I hope I can just start calling you on a weekly basis. Say, man, I'm stuck. Brian, I'm
Likewise,
stuck
brother.
again. All right.
This will be mutually beneficial. I'm with it.
Any way I can help, I would love it. I don't know how, but maybe a little, maybe some boxing. I'll probably
There
get
you
you on
go.
that one. Well, I'll argue on that one. I know I got a PhD in that. And baseball, I definitely got a PhD on that. But whatever you need, I got you, man. You're a good man. Anything you want to leave for, you know, there's a couple audiences we talk to in our community, right? We have CIOs. So far, we have over 40 episodes recorded. It's being launched here like every week, at least two dropping weekly. My marketing team does an excellent job with that stuff. But, we have CIOs, we have CMOs, we have CHROs, but we also have across the spectrum, that kid that just got their CS degree, kind of, they're struggling right now, like 77% of these cats, they're struggling to get jobs, right? They're getting all these degrees, but
Mhm,
they're struggling. And there's you know,
mhm,
new obstacles out there, AI or whatever it may be. I think it could be companies are
mhm,
just, doing more or less. You have nearshore, you have offshore. You know,
mhm.
what kind of advice to different people, like the executives out there? Any advice would you offer? 'Cause you have a wealth of experience that you would offer them from a leadership perspective? And then what do you offer these young guys, young people that are coming up these days, how to get in the door? right? Because
Yeah.
they got to push a little bit, in my opinion.
Yeah. So the biggest thing, and I'll start with the young guys in terms of getting in the door. The first thing I'll say is don't be afraid to take on the hard task. Don't be afraid to push yourself. Don't be afraid to fail. And when you do fail, give yourself some grace, just like and give other people grace as well. But give yourself some grace and make sure you use it as a tailwind and not a headwind. The other thing that's so important is making sure you have a mentor and making sure you have a sponsor. And there may be overlap. Sometimes your mentor and your sponsor can do the same thing, but
Yeah,
make sure you've got a mentor and a sponsor because that sponsor is the one that will speak up for you when you're not in the room. And a lot of those conversations happen when you're not in the room. So don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to take on those hard tasks. And we've got a whole lot of people, university, for instance, is extremely cost prohibitive at this time. So you have a lot of people that may have the acumen, but may not have the access. So there are opportunities for them by getting those micro credentials, those certifications. They're stackable. So if you're willing to learn, if you're willing to grow, if you've got a sponsor and you're willing to be mentored, you will be successful. It's that
100%.
simple. For
100%.
the um for
Well
the
said, man.
executives, for the executives on the other side, I would say again, create those environments where your teams are unafraid to fail because they can be their creative best. Show them grace when they do fail. As long as there's a caveat, obviously, we want to make sure we're failing forward and we're not creating those catastrophic mistakes that will put us in the paper. So there are guardrails there when we're
Sure.
talking about being unafraid to fail, but also understand people. People like to be appreciated. People like to feel valued. And sometimes it's something as simple as reaching back out to a team member, saying thank you, saying I value you, saying I appreciate you, and just reaching out, letting them know that you're just giving them that small piece of recognition. Sometimes it doesn't have to be as big as a spot bonus, a raise, a bigger office. Sometimes it's just reaching out and letting them know that you appreciate them. It costs us nothing. It costs us absolutely nothing to say thank you. I appreciate you. And the return on that investment is huge.
Man, that was well, man, another mic drop. You're right, man. Too much we're quick to like, let's keep people happy. It could be, monetarily, it could be, positions or start promising things. But a simple thank you goes a long way. I know it did
Yeah.
for me coming up,
Yeah.
because that
Right.
thank you feel appreciated, but it also gives that person confidence.
Absolutely.
And the best kind of player is
Absolutely.
what? Confident.
Confident. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Man, Brian, thank you for this, man.
Thank
I
you,
mean, I
brother.
could keep going, but I know you're a busy man. I'm getting yelled at. I got a doctor's appointment with my wife. That'll be a different conversation. But I'll tell you, man, it was a blessing. Um, you have so much to share, brother. And I got to get my either to Atlanta or I got to get you to come down here, but we got to get together.
We can do both. We'll figure it out.
That's right. Hey, man, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, my
And
friend.
whatever you need, man, we got you. Next in line's got your back.
I appreciate you. You have a great one.